Hi, this is Eddie with A Mindful Emergence. Are you pretty new to accessing legal cannabis and wanting to explore its benefits, but maybe confused about the pros and cons of flower versus edibles? Well, that's not uncommon, and it can be really confusing. Maybe this video will help. And by the way, if it does and you want additional help navigating this new world with all its options, I offer an inexpensive consultation services. There'll be information in the description with this video if you want to reach out to us. You're curious. Flower, you may know. You may not be a stranger to that at all, but edibles is another world. Although perhaps, you've had that experience with brownies, haven't we all, right? But when it comes to shopping for edibles, there are three main options that are available to you. There's gummies slash chocolate, there's tinctures, and there's the drinks that are everywhere, it seems. But there's some questions to ask yourself. First of all, is inhaling, such as smoking or vaping, even an option for you? For example, do you have respiratory issues? That's one consideration. Now, I went through some surgery recently, and I wanted to be able to use cannabis for pain management for a few days afterwards, rather than the other drugs that they provided or suggested. And smoking was off the table, vaping was off the table. So I needed to go to an edible. And I'll talk about that in a minute. I used a tincture, and I also used some chocolate that was infused with THC. So that worked out for me. All right. Another question is, do you even have access to an environment suitable for vaping or smoking? I know people who live in situations where to smoke, well, they're not going to smoke inside, and to get outside and have privacy is really not an option. Or maybe you're going to a concert, and when you get there, it's one of those concerts where you better not fire up. So maybe you might take an edible because you know it's not going to kick in until you get there. That could work, you know. Are you looking for a quicker onset? Well, smoking gives you a very fast onset, whereas tinctures, probably 10 minutes, drinks, 10 to 15 minutes. And if you take the gummies or the chocolate, you're probably looking at an hour. So that's something to think about. Um, are you looking for a longer lasting effect? Flower doesn't tend to last as long if you just take one puff, whereas an edible, once it kicks in, can last for several hours. Also, another consideration is the cannabinoid breakdown important to you? So, cannabis has over 100 different cannabinoids. The most well-known ones are THC and CBD, but there are others that are very important. For example, CBG is a cannabinoid that's very good for pain management. Well, back to the surgery issue. Once the surgery was over, I stopped at my favorite little dispensary and I said, "Hey, listen, I need something, but I can't smoke." And Michaela came out. She owns Hemp for Victory, and she brought this to me for me. It's from a company called Fire Tree, which is local here in this Asheville area. It's full spectrum organic CBG CBD oil. It's got the CBG, it's got the CBD. It's non-psychoactive. It was perfect. It's administered sublingually. So that was great. I was able to get those specific cannabinoids, even though I wasn't smoking. Also, is the terpene profile important to you? And you might be saying, what the hell is a terpene? Why is that important? Well, I just did another video on why terpenes are important, so feel free to explore that. But terpenes are basically aromatic compounds, and they can have a certain effect, and that can be very, very helpful. But the body metabolizes terpenes much more effectively when inhaling. And besides that, if when you're buying flower, you have an opportunity perhaps to know what the terpene profile is of that. With edibles, almost never are able to find out what kind of terpenes. And there may not even be any, and your body doesn't break them down very well at all. So think about that. And there are other considerations. Some edibles are just plain nasty. Somehow I came into possession of a particular gummy. And if you just look at the bottom of this, you know what that is? That's sugar that's accumulated at the bottom of this. I would never eat this. besides it's Delta 8, and that's another whole conversation. Um, and if you look at the label, and I have to take my glasses off, it says active ingredients. It's got granulated sugar and liquid glucose, plus something called yellow dye 5. Forget it. Now, another option is the chocolate bar. And I opened the bar and I keep these little chocolates in here, but I kept the label. It's from a company called Sugar Creek Hemp. And you look at the ingredients on this, it's just sugar and chocolate, cocoa butter. There's no nasty stuff in here. Much cleaner. A lot of those gummies, I don't know about those. Okay. So edibles can also be really tricky. You take some and then you wait and you wait and you wait, like, these guys. And maybe an hour later you go, well, nothing's happening. So you take another one. And then an hour later, they're scraping you, you're flat out on the couch, they're scraping you off the ceiling. It just isn't working. It's very hard to be precise. Whereas with flour, I can take my little device, measure out a little bit. I know exactly what I'm getting and what kind of effect, and it's going to happen pretty quickly. So, drinks. Let's talk about them. All right. So, this is a particular can of edibles of a drink that I got at the local dispensary, and it's got 50 milligrams of THC. And it's also got CBG, which I mentioned before. That's why I got it. So 50 milligrams of THC in this 12-ounce container. Most people, when they're starting out with these, should start out, if you're not experienced with it, with 2 milligrams, maybe 5 if you have a little bit of experience. 10 is okay for me. But can you imagine drinking this whole thing? A lot of people don't know. Oh, I'm thirsty, and they end up slamming it. I saw one of these drinks a couple of weeks ago that had 100 milligrams of THC in it. And I'm thinking, man, that's dangerous, potentially. So, one other thing, and that's the social factors to consider. A lot of people like to get together with their friends, sit there and roll up a joint, and just really have that experience of sharing it, maybe listening to some music, having some conversation. I get that. Now, I don't happen to be a fan of joints. First of all, you're smoking paper and glue, and it's very, very wasteful. But I get it. A lot of people want that experience. So you don't get that by necessarily popping open a can. So that's something to take into consideration. So there's still more to that, but I wanted to give you kind of a basic overview from what I've learned, what I've experienced. And if you have questions on this video, please reach out to us. I'd love comments in the video. And of course, if you like the video, give us a thumbs up. It really helps our channel to subscribe and do that. So we'll see you next video.